I know that I would like to travel to my spot that I would love to do is just go to Europe, even like England or France or Spain, just to see some of the history and things that you really don't find here in the United States. we have, we have a lot of history, but we don't have the same, kind of history and things like that. So I would just be interested to see. Um, there we go. Sorry about it. All right. So we do want you to ask questions. We want this. I mean, this is going to be very informal. So we do want you to ask questions. We want you to think about ways that you could use these resources in your classroom, or and share your experience or your ideas. We know that here in the early childhood field, I like to call us some of the best thieves, and that not meaning that in a bad way. I just mean that we understand the importance of learning from others and being able to take those ideas, the lesson plans, and those type of things, and be able to tweak them and make them our own. And share them with others and have them do that. And so, even some of the resources that we're going to show to you later, both us at KET as well as those with PBS Kids and PBS want you to know that we want these resources to be usable, and we want them to be, we want you to be able to feel confident enough and understand that you can have the flexibility to implement any of these ideas in whatever way would make the most sense for you and your particular audience. So, again, like I said, we want this to be informal. So feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. Feel free to put something in the chat if you want to. You can do that as well. That's one of the things Brittany is going to be helping out with at this first part, and then I'll be helping out with it at the end when she presents. So we'll be monitoring the chat so that you have any questions or anything like that, you can take a look there. Or you can ask it in there too, and we will get to it. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to kind of briefly discuss the Ready to Learn grant. I was so excited. Actually, I'll just digress just a slight bit. The Ready to Learn grant in and of itself is a 5-year grant, and so it just got renewed. We just got the information about that yesterday. It was publicly announced, so I'll tell you a little bit about that here shortly. But we're also going to be providing an overview of family and community learning workshops. We're going to talk about what those are, kind of how they're set up, which ones are available right now, and then talk about, we even will share our experience in piloting these resources. That was one of our things that we have gotten to do. We'll also be showing you resources for out of school, or they can be used as camp resources. The other thing, like I said earlier, you can take even bits and pieces within these larger contexts. And if you only want to do one activity out of that, you're welcome to do that as well. We just want you to use them however you're going to see fit. We are going to show you where you can find all of these resources, so you know exactly where to find them and locate them. And then we are going to be highlighting some free apps and some other things from PBS and PBS Kids that you can use as well. So you can put it in the chat box, or you can, if you want to, actually, I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. I want you to share your name of the age group that you teach, and then maybe a favorite resource, and it can be a traditional resource, it can be a digital resource, it totally doesn't matter, but just some sort of favorite resource that you like to use with your learners. Resource engage your learners. So would anybody like to share with us? You all can type it in the chat box as well. So if you will just let us know your name, the age group that you teach, and then, like I said, a favorite resource that you use with your children or with the kids that you teach. Okay. All right, we'll move on. So I was mentioning to you a little bit about the Ready to Learn grant. So the Ready to Learn grant is a grant that comes from PBS and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This grant has been around for about 20 years now. As I mentioned to you earlier, this grant actually runs in 5-year cycles. And we just finished the 2015-2020 cycle of the grant. The next round actually officially started October 1st, 2020, and it'll run through September 2025. So we are in the beginning stages of this round of the Ready to Learn grant. So this is a federal grant, and we will be, as far as this particular round, at the beginning of this grant, KET is going to be one of 12 PBS stations from across the nation that is going to be taking part in this grant. And so we're excited as each year rolls around, they wind up adding more stations to it. And so we're interested to see what kind of work is going to be coming out of this grant. So what we're going to be talking about today is actually some of the resources that have come out of this 2015-2020 round of the grant.
Hey, Holly, can I stop you real quick there?
Yes, you can.
Hey, so Nicole in the chat introduced herself. She said that she's a Frisky who works with middle school students.
Hey, Nicole. I hope you'll be able to, I think you'll be able to find some information, or find some resources about this or some information about this. The Ready to Learn grant does have a tendency to target that younger audience, but towards the end of the presentation, we will be talking about where to find all of these resources. And so, and where you find these resources, there are hundreds of other resources out there. So you're welcome to stay and listen if you would like. We'd love to have you. So thank you for coming. I really do appreciate it. I just want to let you know that up front. So just in case you're busy this afternoon anyway. All right, so I mentioned to you already that this grant does run in 5-year cycles, and we just finished up the 5th year of this grant. It does kind of promote, the whole intent and purpose is to promote early learning, especially for those low-income, underserved populations. So there have been tons and tons of research done about the work of the Ready to Learn grant and how the impact that it does make on children and their families in preparation for early learning and for school readiness. It does bring in those best practices and build on future innovation. So as we continue to work through the grant, that's one of the things I have loved about my job, is being able to, as a station, pilot these resources with our community partners, and then be able to give feedback back to CPB and PBS and say, this worked, this didn't work. And so watching them in order, making decisions based on feedback they get from stations just like us at KET on being able to make tweaks and changes so that when it does get posted to PBS Learning Media, that it is the best product that's out there, and it is research-based and has been tested and all of those things. So by far, this is probably one of my favorite things that we do. So here, just a little bit about some of the resources as far as the properties that came out of this 2015-2020 grant cycle. So some of these you may recognize. Some of these are properties that have been around for a little while. So they maybe just had some additional resources that were funded through this grant. For example, the Cat in the Hat knows a lot about that. It's a program that's been around for a little bit. The Rough Ruffman Show. I often tell the story. My oldest daughter, who is now 18, when she was little, Rough Ruffman, they had a television show called Fetch with Rough Ruffman. And so he's been around. He's had different iterations for the last several years. So Ruff is a character that's been around for a little bit. Ready, Jet, Go is probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 years old. I can't remember exactly how old Ready, Jet, Go is. But he does have a tendency, as you could probably imagine, focuses on space science. And the resources developed with this particular grant were more about Earth and space science. So it brought in some of those components as well. Now, there's 2 characters you're going to notice on here. I'll talk about the very last one first, Wally Abdinali. So she is a brand new character. Her shows just piloted or just started airing last year. So she's been around for about a year. The big focus of her particular show or her particular property is involving informational text. And so this was something that they felt that was missing a little bit especially when we were thinking about young children, knowing what reputable information is, knowing where to find reputable information, what is informational text, what is it telling us. So she also, not only that being her overarching kind of academic look, she is also the very first Native Alaskan character that's ever been on a kids show, period. And so they really worked with WGBH out of Boston, is who produces that. It's Boston's PBS station. They really worked with Native Alaskans. So the lead the lead director or co-author is a Native Alaskan. The music's all done by Native Alaskan. The voices are done by Native Alaskans. So they infuse, not only are they infusing informational text, but they're also infusing indigenous people's beliefs and systems and cultures within that, which is something that we had not seen before. Then the second one you're going to see there, this is Eleanor Wonders Why. She, is brand new. Her shows just started airing back in September of this year. And so it's, as you can see, this adorable little 3-year-old bunny. And this bunny is curious about everything, as most 3-year-olds are. And so she is always finding everything, always asking questions. Her little tagline is, "That's so interesting." And because everything, and she thinks about it in a way that a 3-year-old would. Actually, one of the co-authors of the show or co-producers of the show, this Eleanor is based off his daughter, Eleanor. And so she talks about, like, one, for example, they're investigating what makes Velcro work. And so they talk about it in a way that a 3-year-old would. They talk about one side being a scratchy patch. And I never would have thought of that way. But then they talk about how the other side of the Velcro has a hook. And so that's what hooks onto the scratchy patch and those type of things. So, and then figuring out what does it stick to? What does it not stick to? And anyway, so you're going to notice there too that a big part of this particular round of the Ready to Learn grant did focus on the science inquiry process. We looked at the engineering design process. And then also, as with Molly of Denali, we were looking at literacy as well. Literacy is always a component you're going to be able to find in the Ready to Learn grant in some form or fashion. It's threaded and weaved in throughout all of this. But each round of the Ready to Learn grant does have kind of some variances as far as where the focus is. And that's a lot based on what the needs are at the particular time. So you're going to see that a lot of the resources that were developed with this particular round of the Ready to Learn grant do involve more of the scientific inquiry and the engineering design process. So these are just two graphics that we use or that were developed as part of this grant too. I really like them in a lot of because to me, it really helps to simplify this. The one that's on the left is the engineering design process, as you can see. And the thing about it is that helping children understand that no matter what they're doing, when they go through these kind of similar steps, defining a problem, imagining and planning, creating, testing and improving, when they're doing all of that, they're thinking like an engineer. So I could care less if you are balancing your checkbook or you're building a block tower in the block center. You're using an engineering design process. You're having to think through how is this going to work? What am I going to do to get this right? The one that's on the right is a science inquiry process. And the reason that they developed this grant in the way that it did is because they want parents, caregivers, children to understand that the science inquiry process is just a continual process. There isn't a start and a stop or anything like that. Like I know when I was in school, I learned a lot about the scientific method and, learning what a hypothesis was and all of those kind of things, where this takes, it works under that same similar premise in the fact that we're investigating things. We're being curious. We're asking new questions. We're sharing ideas. We're coming up with data or conclusions, and then we're using that to impact what we do next. And so this is just showing, this was just a cute little graphic that they developed just to kind of think about those as well. This is the one for informational text. None of these graphics are ever meant to just be memorized, or that's not the intent of just why that they're there, but they're just kind of meant to be an aid to either, like I said, parents or educators, whomever that may need to use it or would like to use it. And so this just really details out the 5 different types of informational text, what each one of those different types of informational text does. And then throughout the resources you're going to be able to find with Molly of Denali, and throughout Molly of Denali's shows and her games or anything like that, you're going to be able to see all 5 of these at play in different aspects or different ways. She is always looking up something or trying to figure out something, and she uses informational text in a way that gets her the information that she needs to be able to answer her question or to look up what she needs, or sometimes lead to a new question and then new discovery. So all right. So what we're going to talk about first are the series of family and community learning workshops. As you can see right now, there are 5 of them that we have. One of them will be coming. One of them is not available as far as in PBS Learning Media yet, but we have been told that it should be up pretty soon, but 4 of them are available. So we're going to talk a little bit about what a family and community learning workshop is, how we have used it in the past, or maybe a little bit about what we've done. And then, like I said, towards the end of this, Brittany's actually going to show you where you can find all of these resources. So we call it FCL for short. So if I get caught off and keep talking about an FCL, you're going to understand that I mean family and community learning. It's just one of our acronyms that we use, and I know early childhood is full of them all the time. So, family and community learning, the way that they're developed is they're intended to be a series of 4 workshops, and these usually meet once a week for 4 weeks. The intent is to engage the entire family. So we'll talk about each one of the ones that are available and kind of the target or the sweet spot age range. Some are geared more towards children that are 3 to 5. Some are geared towards children that are 5 to 8. However, an FCL is intended to bring the entire family together. So when we've piloted these, we've had families that have brought their babies. We have had families that brought their high school kids, middle school kids. So the intent of this purpose is to truly be a family engagement process. This is all guided play through hands-on activities. So the facilitators will introduce a topic. And then we talk about that topic, and then the families get a chance to explore that topic, whatever the topic happens to be for the night. They'll get to explore that topic through a hands-on activity. And then there's a take-home that they can always do as well to further extend the learning. Like I said, it is intended to be that collaboration with the entire family. We have always had great success and had lots of good feedback about families that have been involved. A lot of times, speaking, Nicole, we've worked with a lot of Friskies for these particular resources, especially in the elementary schools. They have hosted one, and then we've come and been able to pilot it or whatever. And then we've also had some Friskies that have taken on this work, and they have been doing it on their own as well. It is intended to help support the confidence of the adults in the relationship, or in the adults in the room, to help their child develop and grow. It's not about what I know. It's not about whomever the facilitator happens to be. It's not about what they know. So a lot of times with a lot of these, at the beginning of the workshop, we separate the children and family, or the children and the adults. And the intent with that is that the children are focusing on an activity that relates back to whatever the topic is for that night. And the adults, what we're doing at that point, the facilitators that are with the adults, we're helping them understand what we're going to be covering. We're putting them in the driver's seat. And so we're helping them and supporting them, again, through whatever topic that is going on for that night, so that then when the children come back together, it's them that are the teacher. It's the parents or the caregivers that are the teacher. Again, it's not about how much I know or what I don't know or anything like that. It's about building that relationship and supporting that relationship between the children and the families. So this is kind of the flow, and I know that things are a little crazy right now as far as we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm going to be talking more in general about the way that they're written, and then I can also talk about a couple of the different ways that we've been able to work at it, being more in a virtual world. So typically they do have these 4 sections, and so we always started with a meal. PBS always feels that that's a great opportunity for families to connect with one another, for them to connect with the teachers or other facilitators that are there, just to get, and a lot of times these were offered at times about when dinner time would be anyway. And so this always allowed families to connect together and be able to participate fully without having to worry about that when I get done here after a 2-hour workshop, I've got to go home and figure out what I need to fix. So that was one thing that was always a part of that. So the next part, as I mentioned, the explore piece, a lot of times this is either a whole group activity, or this is the point of which in the workshop that we separate the children from the adults, and then we model for those caregivers whatever ways that they can be supporting their children's learning through the hands-on activities. That make part is that hands-on activity, so they will work together as a complete family unit to work on, usually there's 1 or 2 hands-on activities depending on the workshop and the topic that they get to engage in and together. At the very last part of the night, then we all come back together as a whole group. We get to share our experiences, talk about what we've learned, maybe ask questions to other families, or give feedback to other families and reflect on whatever our experience has been for the night. We have done, we do actually have one, it's a community early childhood council that is currently in the middle of hosting a virtual FCL right now, and then we've done a virtual camp in the recent past as well. So we've got some things coming up, and we've talked about ideas about how to be able to translate these activities into more of a virtual world too. So I know that other stations have been doing that all of them. So I'm going to show you this video right now. This is just a really cute video that was produced by PBS that talks about what an FCL is.
Holly, we can't hear.
Did that to me today. Let me try again. I'll stop sharing and then try to reshare.
Workshops where we get parents and kids together to engage.
Oh, hold on.
These are the PBS Kids Family and Community Learning Workshops. These provide families the opportunity to explore STEM concepts in a whimsical, very fun way.
It's a series of 4 workshops where we get parents and kids together to engage in science inquiry and engineering design.
At every workshop, we follow the same format. We eat, we explore, we play, and we share out.
We are focusing on both the caregivers and the children because we want them to learn in partnership.
When families are invested in children's learning, research tells us that they are better off academically, they're better off socially and emotionally, and also they graduate high school at a higher rate.
Hi, Ralph. We're here to help. What do you want us to do?
I need to make a rhino-sized raincoat out of some kind of material I can find in this house.
PBS Kids Media is the base of everything that we do. It's a perfect kicking off point.
PBS Kids characters are very good models for the science inquiry and engineering design process.
They're always making observations, asking questions, and they talk you through that process.
The higher sounding gun is smaller.
That's about the size of it.
The multi-generational idea is to bring the whole family unit into a session.
It can be any family member. It can be grandparents, aunts, and uncles, even older brothers and sisters.
These workshops make the parents see a different light or a different side of learning. The light bulb goes off to say, oh, I can do this at home.
He asked me the other day, he's like, Mom, I want to do an experiment. Now he's like obsessed with it. So it's awesome.
These workshops really do give families the confidence that they can learn together, and it's not just something that takes place at school. It's something that can happen in their homes.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about each one of the FCLs and what is available and where and kind of the target age range for each one of them. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is PBS Kids Scratch Junior. So Scratch Junior is a pre-coding app, a free pre-coding app that is available from PBS Kids. It uses, so Scratch in and of itself has been in existence for a little while. It was actually developed by MIT as a pre-coding realm. Then they developed Scratch Junior. So it was geared towards more younger children. So we're talking, like I said, probably that 5 to 8, maybe a little older, even some a little younger, depending on the child, kind of age range. And so then what PBS did is that they basically took that same program and they've added that PBS twist to it. So they have PBS Kids backgrounds that can be used, PBS Kids characters that children recognize that they can develop stories with. So the cool thing about this particular app, it does focus in on that science and technology, the STEM concepts, along with core coding concepts. But Scratch Junior also really, when you think about it, it entails literacy concepts. So the cool thing about it is that they're developing a story. That's part of what they're doing in this particular one, is they're working as a family to develop a story. And so they have to think about those, what do we want to come first? What do we want to come second? How is our story going to end type of thought processes as well. So there's a lot that goes on in Scratch Junior. I really, really like it. It's probably one of my favorite apps that we have. But so in the session, this particular FCL, it does really kind of build upon itself. This is probably the only one that really kind of does that. And it's just because families begin a project beginning at session 1, and then throughout the process, they're continuing to work on that project. And we talk about the app and coding and what does that look like as a continuation of the entire process. So you're going to see session 1, we talk about what a maker is. What does that person do? What other things can they do? So then we talk about, we talk about kind of a little, what is coding? So we talk about, in that one, we actually kind of relate coding to understanding that it's a step-by-step process. And so they illustrate that. It's one of my favorite activities as part of this FCL. They illustrate that through the families and the children are coming up with the steps that's required to do a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So when you think about it, most people would just say, take a piece of bread, put some peanut butter on it, put some jelly on it, put the other piece of bread on top or whatever. But when you really step back and you think, well, how many steps, where are you at? How many steps is it going to take you to get to the cabinet? When you get to the cabinet, what do? You have to open the cabinet. So we do a lot of these little tiny processes without even thinking about it. And so that's what really this is intending to show, is that coding does the same thing. But we as the makers, we have to code it that way. So if we want our character to go 5 steps to the left, then we need to make sure that we're doing it 5 steps to the left. If it doesn't, then that's kind of where, as that last part or the session 3 talks about, is the engineering design process comes in. So I've made something, I've tested it out, it's not working, what do I need to do now? And so there's a lot of this that, yes, it works at pre-coding, but there's a lot of this that really translates into a lot of other different capacities as well. Then session 4 is really just to celebrate the families. They get to show and illustrate the stories that they've created with Scratch Junior. So it's really neat how that they've been able to do this. Like I said, it's probably one of my favorite FCLs. So this particular one, this is the FCL with Rough Ruffman. Again, this one is geared towards kind of that 5 to 8 kind of target age range. This one really does look at, again, STEM concepts in science inquiry and the engineering design process. This one, like I said, Scratch Junior is the only one that really does kind of follow a sequence. The other ones that I'm going to show you and talk about, you really could take out just night 1 if that's what you want to do. Maybe you have a family engagement night and you're wanting to do one activity, one special thing. You could do just one of these and it's not going to hurt anything. There's no other prior knowledge that they need or anything like that in order to continue with this process, or to be able to participate in the night completely. So this one, as you can see, so session 1, we talk about mixtures, and we're talking about when can a mixture be unmixed and when it can it not be unmixed. So the two illustrations in that kind of case, they get to make trail mix with one. At one station, another station, they're making Play-Doh. So they talk about how the Play-Doh cannot be unmixed because once you've added those components in, it changes the structure. It changes what those materials are. And like if you're, let's say, for example, you make Play-Doh with flour, well, you can't take that flour out of it. It doesn't work that way. But however, if I have trail mix, and my daughter does this almost every time she buys it, if I have trail mix and it's got raisins in it and I don't like raisins, I can take those raisins out. And so that's something that I can unmix because it doesn't change the structure of what is being mixed together. So then we talk about material world. So we talk about the properties of materials. What types of materials can keep us dry? What types of materials can protect us? What types of materials protect us from the sun? So there's all sorts of different things that they talk about in material world. And then slick or stick or slide. I keep on wanting to call it slick. Stick or slide. We explore force and motion. So we look at ramps and we talk about the different surfaces and what types of surface create friction, what types of surfaces do not have any friction whatsoever, and why? What is that difference? And then the last session is called Build It Up, and we really look at structures. What type of structure do we need to build? When we're building a structure, what type of base does that structure need to have in order to be stable and have it hold the weight or whatever that we're looking to do. This particular FCL, I will say, we have had, seem to have a lot of fathers really get into this one. We've piloted this one, I think 3, maybe 4 times already, and they love it. And so parents and fathers are all caregivers, but fathers really seem to be, especially on that last one. It was really interesting. We were at a school in eastern Kentucky, and we had a couple of dads that were getting pretty competitive about their structures and making sure that, it was taller or anyway, it was a lot of fun. All right, so we're going to talk about Play and Learn Science, the Play and Learn Science FCL. So this one is kind of based upon, there is a free app called Play and Learn Science. It is geared for children 3 to 5. It looks at a lot of different creative ways to play and explore the science and engineering processes, different practices, and then we'll talk about what each one of the nights are. I'm sorry, I hope you can still hear me. They're doing some construction on the street outside of me. But anyway, so you can see this one does now, because this is geared for that kind of younger audience, that 3 to 5 audience, it really does kind of follow, and this is even a picture of the picture schedule that we have during the session, so that it kind of has that familiar feel to that preschool audience. They kind of know what to expect and understand what's going to be happening next and that type of thing. So you're going to see some common themes throughout this, and again, that's just, but these, even though it's a common theme, it's still geared for a different audience. So this first one, you'll see session 1 there is ramp and roll. So we do talk about friction. We do talk about different types of ramps, what makes it different, how when a ramp is taller or shorter, that makes a difference. So again, though, even though you're going to see that same kind of concept or topic, this one is going to be geared for that younger audience. So it's got a little bit of a different feel. Session 2 is probably one of my favorite sessions of this whole thing, is shadow play. And so children get to explore how do you make a shadow? How can you make a shadow bigger or smaller? What's the difference between a shadow and a silhouette, and those type of things? So it's interesting. This one's a really a lot of fun night. The next one you're going to see is weather and gear. And so this one, again, we're talking about what type of gear would we need for different weather types, or one of the stations that they get to go to in this particular one, they get to pretend to be a meteorologist and get to talk about what the weather is going to be like. And so it mentions all of that. The very last one is mentioning water play. So what are some of the properties of water? How all four of these correlate. If you take a look at the Play and Learn Science app, there are little mini games that are within the Play and Learn Science app, and all of these topics are covered within that Play and Learn Science app. So they get a chance to play some of those games. They get to investigate and do a hands-on activity. There's always a literacy station, and so they get to further explore books that cover those same topics. And then they get some sort of make and take as well. At the end of the night, just like all the others, we get to share out with the families that we have in attendance. And then at the end of the night, we all get to say goodbye and we get to come back the next week. So here's another one kind of geared for children 3 to 5. This is using Cat in the Hat resources. So with this particular one, again, we're still looking at that science inquiry process. So this first session, talking about sorting. So for example, one of the stations that they get to do is sorting goldfish. And we had one instance where we were at a particular place piloting this, and they sorted gold. So we had all sorts of different, we had a bag, each family got a small bag of a variety of different types of goldfishes. The thing about it is in this one is just helping them understand there can basically be more than one way to sort something. And so this child, she decided to sort goldfish between the ones that have a smile and the ones that don't have a smile. I'd never paid any attention before that some goldfish didn't have a smile, but that's the way she decided to sort them. So instead of sorting them by color or flavor or any of that, she decided that she was doing it by smile or no smile. So I thought that was really cute. The next one, we talk about the properties of different balls. So we talk about the properties of a basketball versus a golf ball versus what balls are bouncy or not. The session 3, then we go into one called Going Gong. This particular one is a music session, and so they get to think about pitch, and we get to think about volume, and we think about all sorts of different things. The last one there is building bridges, and so they get a chance to explore what type of bridge or various different types of bridges. They get a chance to create their own bridges, and then test them out. Is their bridge going to be able to hold weight? If it doesn't, why doesn't it? And what can we do to change that? So this has been one that we've piloted 2 or 3 times as well, and families really enjoyed this one a lot as well. So we've got 2 more FCLs that are going to be coming up pretty soon. Like I said, the Ready, Jet, Go FCL should be in PBS Learning Media. We've been told, sorry, had a bug. We've been told that it should be ready pretty soon, hopefully within the next month or 2. The Molly of Denali FCL, we had actually just started piloting this when the pandemic hit. And so I know that it probably will be a little bit longer before the Molly of Denali FCL is ready and up in PBS Learning Media. But so both of those, both Ready, Jet, Go and Molly of Denali, are going to be FCLs that are going to be geared more towards that 5 to 8 age range. And Molly of Denali, to be perfectly honest, I would probably even gear it for maybe first grade, maybe some kindergartners depending, but up through 3rd or 4th grade for sure, because it really does have that informational text focus. And so I do think that families of older children definitely can enjoy Molly of Denali for sure. So this is a video that actually was produced by KET. This was when we got to pilot our Molly of Denali FCL, and so I'm just going to show you it really quickly.
Just in the parking lot, both the kids immediately know it's Molly of Denali time. The Molly of Denali workshop, while we're being taught how to understand and convey and communicate with the kids about what they're learning, they're also learning about their world around them and how to understand the world around them. After learning about the different Alaskan people's heritage values, the kids also wanted to learn about our family, our traditions, and where we come from, and who they are, and where their place is in the world. And I think that building on that foundation really will, in the long run, with having a better grip on the multiculturalism especially. We had hoped that it would just teach them about a new culture. We didn't know that it was going to teach them about the values and how to take that lens of another culture and still manage to take those perspectives and apply it to ours. The biggest takeaway from the workshop is that family time can be learning time. It's very efficient. It's very well organized.
That's called a procedural text. It tells us what to do.
There's not a moment that we're not learning something and the kids are learning something.
Get it in! You can do it, yeah.
I was 100% satisfied with the workshop. On the very first night that we left, I turned to Amber and said, we are absolutely going back every single night. There's no question.
So as you can see there in the video, we did have some younger families for this particular one, and it still worked out great. It's definitely that, you know, those younger children for Molly of Denali are going to need some additional supports. But as you can see, the families really enjoyed it, and we're still able to fully participate in the activity. So that wasn't an issue at all. All right, so we're going to move on and talk about our camp resources, or we also call them out-of-school resources. Right now, there are 2 that are available. There is a Sensational Science Camp with Ruff Ruffman, and then there is an Odd Squad Be the Agent Camp. And so we're going to talk just a little bit about each one. So Odd Squad Be the Agent Camp. I don't know if you're familiar with Odd Squad or not, but Odd Squad really is, it's a show from PBS. It is done, it is actually produced by the Fred Rogers Company. It's about children or a group of children that are agents. And so these agents solve really odd and weird cases, depending on it. It does typically have kind of a math focus. There are some science and engineering practices that go on along with it, but Odd Squad in and of itself does have a tendency to be kind of more of a math property. So the really cool thing is that children get to become an Odd Squad agent. So at the beginning of the camp, there's a pledge that they do. We've got even badge stickers that they do. So kids actually get kind of inducted into camp and to become part of the Odd Squad campers. So in this, this is built several different ways actually. So I'll talk about that. It is built to be a 5-day experience. However, again, you can take it and tweak it however you need to. Within each day, there are always 2 cases that can be solved. In between that as well, there's always there are outdoor games that you can play, as well as there's they call them gadget labs. And so the gadget labs are where the science inquiry process really does come in. So they get to build something that goes along with one of the cases, whatever it happens to be. So this particular camp, we've done it a couple of different ways. We have hosted this camp as a full 5-day experience, done all of the cases. We've done a mini camp where we did just 3 days. And so we just did, we wound up doing just 6 of the cases. Recently, we actually hosted this one as a virtual experience. Like I said, we did it as a 4-day experience, but because it was a little bit, we had to think outside the box when thinking about how to do this virtually. We did 1 case each day, and then we did send the materials that they could do the gadget lab, because we partnered with a child care facility. And so we sent the materials so that they could do the gadget lab kind of more on their own instead of being on WebEx or whatever we were using the entire time with this, like that whole 4 hours or whatever it might have been. So we have thought outside the box a little bit about this one, and we do have another partner who is getting ready. Sorry, we're close to the train. So we do live with, we do have another partner that is getting ready to host their own version of this. They're going to do a 3-day virtual camp as well. So I think that all of these, it does take some thinking outside of the box, but you can turn these or use these in a virtual way. But also, like I said before and earlier, you can take these and piece them out. If it's maybe a resource you're going to use in the classroom, you could do that. Or if it's a family engagement night, you want to do one of these, that's fine too. We just want you to know that these resources, the big part of it is we want you to know these resources are out there and kind of how great they are anyway, or at least, I am partial, I do know, but how nice that they are and able to be used. So you're going to see with this one, the Sensational Science Camp with Ruff Ruffman, you're going to see a lot of overlap in regards to this and the FCL. And so basically what they've done with this one, they have the exact same, let me show you those first. You're going to see the exact same topics. So the activities look similar. They're done a little differently. And a lot of times with this particular one as well, what they do is we work together and pair up children and really think about pairing children, maybe younger children with older children, so that they can be learning from each other. And then the last day with this one is a big wrap up and a big celebration about what they've been learning throughout the week. So I'm going to show you the little video about Ruff Ruffman.
This camp is Ruff Ruffman's Sensational Science Camp. It's all about the engineering design process and science inquiry. Every component of Sensational Science Camp is intentional. So we pick an episode and we pair it with activities. We pair it with another piece of PBS Kids digital content that all makes this package for learning.
Oh, Ruffman, show!
We started with a clip from Ruff Ruffman. He has some kind of problem, and the show is great because kids actually these problems.
I need something to keep them dry in the rain so we can get out for that walk. I need to make a raincoat out of some kind of material I can find in this house. Can you test different materials and tell me what to use?
For sure! Yeah!
Ruff Ruffman's a perfect kicking off point for those topics.
This relates to everything that we're doing in this camp, and this relates to what we're doing today.
We separate out into groups. Each person in each group has a different role that they're fulfilling for that project.
I think I'll use this piece. It's to protect from the sun, so he won't get too hot on his head.
It's just about asking questions and testing things and improving on them, and then asking more questions about that inherent scientist when you do that.
There you go. Extra reinforcement.
After we do our projects, we all refer back to our journals and we talk about what we noticed and what we investigated and what our results were like, and we compare and we share.
We put this see-through box so rain does not get on her face.
Every Sensational Science Camp that we do, there's always something new that happens.
All right. And as you could probably guess, we do have a Ready, Jet, Go space exploration camp that has been piloted. Like I said, we have piloted it as well as other PBS stations across the nation have. And that material will be available soon in PBS Learning Media. So be on the lookout for that one. That one does kind of gear more towards earth science, space science, as well as using that science inquiry and engineering design process. So I really like that one too, but that's because I was the kid that always wanted to go to space camp too. So I really did enjoy doing the Ready, Jet, Go. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Brittany. She is going to start talking about where you can find these resources and all of those type of things. So.
Okay, thank you. Holly, is there any way that I could share my screen?
Yeah, I can take this down.
I'll go ahead and share.
While she's working on that, does anybody have questions or anything like that?
Okay, are you all able to see that all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Let's... Okay, so what I'm going to be showing you all today is PBS Learning Media. Now, Nicole, this might be something that's going to be really beneficial for you to use and some resources that you'd be able to use, you know, in your school. So you're going to go to kt.pbslearningmedia.org to get to this dashboard. Now, what PBS Learning Media is it is just a place, it is a one-stop shop for all of these PBS resources. So this website hosts thousands of free resources, and you know there's pretty much just anything under the moon that you could think of or need in your classroom. When I was in the classroom, I constantly used PBS Learning Media, and I really used it as an alternative to, you know, searching something on YouTube or maybe Googling something, because I knew that anything that was going to be on this website was going to be reputable. It was going to be research based, and I knew that it was going to meet the education needs of my class. So what I'll start off by saying is that when you come to this website for the first time, there's an option to make an account. I would highly, highly recommend that you make an account. What this does is this designates you as a Kentucky teacher, which gives you access to all of the content that's on PBS Learning Media. So if you don't sign up with an account, then you're not going to be able to see all of those resources. KET has made it so that when you become a Kentucky teacher, you're kind of, you know, looped into the KET world, since we do serve the entire state of Kentucky. So you do get those extra resources. Some of the other benefits too that I won't talk about right this moment, but later on here, are some of these options to favorite in folders. And then, you know, these are some things not necessarily the most useful for early childhood, you know, making assignments and quizzes and that type of thing, but definitely can be useful once you start getting up into, you know, kindergarten plus. So up here, this is the main page. You're going to see subjects, grades, standards, and for students. So subjects, if you know the subject that you are looking for, you can come down here and you can go to science, and then you can, you know, look under here for exactly what the subcategory is that you are looking for. This is good if you just want to get an overall idea of, you know, if you're looking for language resources, this might be a good place to come. Another option here is that you can actually search by grade. So if you are in a pre-K classroom, you can click right here on pre-K and get all of those resources right there. Same for middle school. Now, a really great part of PBS Learning Media that I just think is so, you know, so above what is necessary, and just really shows how well this all of these resources can be incorporated in the classroom, are these browse by standard options. So right here, you can come to type of standard. You can put in Common Core, state standards, and GSS standards. For now, I'll go to state standards to show you. You can actually choose Kentucky and then come down here to the early childhood standards. And then, you can search by pre-K, and then whatever you are looking for, you can see here I've typed in weather before. You can go ahead and just type in those keywords and then browse by whatever the standard is that you are trying to meet. So we'll come back out of that. Here is another option right here. And then up here in the right-hand corner are just search bars where you can type in anything. That's really quick and easy if you just need to search something quickly. Right here are these are all resources. These little snippets, the social studies, the English language arts, the science, those never change, but the resources that are promoted here do change very regularly. So these are constantly changing. You can see there's some holidays, there's always something new going on. And PBS Learning Media is always highlighting a new and relevant resource for whatever the category is. Right here, you can see, again, you can browse by subject or by grade. And then down here are news and events. So these usually connect to some type of a blog where there's going to be a relevant blog. So here you can see Hispanic Heritage Month. So you can read about that. You can watch a series about tools for anti-racist teaching. And then down here are some of the collections. So again, when you log in and you make an account as a Kentucky teacher, that designates you as KETs. And so these are all collections. News Quiz through Artsville are all collections that were produced at KET. So some of these that I'd like to highlight today are going to be the everyday learning, and then again, the ready to learn. So we're going to start with the ready to learn because that's where a lot of the resources that Holly talked about earlier can be found. So here is going to be, we're now in the collection. So there are going to be multiple resources, many resources within this collection, but this is just kind of a one-stop shop if you are looking for any of the ready to learn resources. Up here, it says in this collection, it just kind of gives you an overview of exactly what to expect. One thing that I do want to note is that a lot of these resources are also available in Spanish, which is really great. When you are in a collection, there are multiple options that you have here. So you can share. So you can either share by link, by Remind, which is an app that teachers use to communicate with parents. You can email it directly from PBS Learning Media, or you can post it onto social media. I know right now a lot of people are teaching virtually and using social media more than ever to get out good resources for students. So that's a great option for you there. Again, I talked earlier about when you come up here, you see the option for favorites. When you find a resource that you really like, you want to hold on to it for a long time, you can come here, you can favorite it. That heart will turn totally blue, and then that will put it up into that favorite section, which we'll explore here in a little while. Google Classroom is also a really easy tool to use with PBS Learning Media resources. So if you are using Google Classroom constantly, I would definitely recommend looking into some of these resources. We won't go into too much detail about Google Classroom today, but it is very easy and streamlined to just put those resources right in there. So now when you come down, you'll see the series. So there are multiple different series that Holly had talked about earlier. You can see Ready, Jet, Go. The Cat in the Hat knows a lot about that. Rough Ruffman Show, Molly of Denali, and Eleanor Wonders Why. So when you click on one of these series, then you will get multiple different types of resources within it. So here you can see on the left, there's the series, and then they're listed again here. So once you've clicked on a series, you're going to see all of these different resources. Nice little cheat sheet here is that it tells you exactly what type of resource that is. So it can either be a lesson plan, an interactive, which students can do right here on the computer, a video, or there are a couple of other ones that we'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute here. Over here on the side, so we'll go ahead and minimize that, you'll see that there are games. So these are going to have all of the games, not just one, one series, but all of the games that have come out of this collection. There's some pretty fun ones in here. I would definitely recommend taking a look at some of these. Again, you can see the videos. You can either see them, all of them right here at once, or if you know that you want to look specifically at Cat in the Hat ones, you can click right there into that subcategory and get all of those to come up for you. A couple of other resources that are specific to the Ready to Learn collection that I'd just like to highlight really quickly. It does have these Boston University teaching tips, which I would recommend just skimming through at some point. There are definitely some useful tips in there. There's some different educator activities, out-of-school resources, and family and community learning. So this is where you're going to find those resources that Holly was talking about earlier. So the FCLs, you're going to find that information all right here. The out-of-school resources, so the camps, you're going to find all of that information right here as well. Family resources, there are also a number of resources here that are designed specifically with families in mind. So definitely take a look at those if that is something that you are interested in. I know family engagement right now is something that everybody is definitely working on. So we'll come back out of that, and I'm going to show you a few other collections. So the Everyday Learning collection, this is a really great one, specifically if you are in an early childhood education classroom. These are pretty cute. I've been looking at a lot of these this week, actually. But so there are different categories. So there's Everyday Science for preschoolers, Everyday Math for preschoolers, Healthy Me, All Around Me, and Art to Heart. So I believe I set this up correctly so that if I share one of these, you should be able to hear. But let me know if you cannot hear these. I'm going to show you one in particular.
There are many types of clouds. They help you tell what the weather might be like. Cirrus clouds are thin and wispy. They can look like ribbons or even a horse's tail. They appear high in the sky and are made of ice droplets. Cirrus clouds point in the direction that the wind is blowing.
They appear in sunny weather, but when they show up, you know a weather change is coming.
Stratus clouds are gray and smooth. When you see these clouds, they usually cover most of the sky. They appear low in the sky. They're made of water droplets.
When stratus clouds appear, rain or snow is probably not far beyond.
Cumulus clouds are big and fluffy. They look like cotton balls, but can be shaped like anything.
What shapes do you see? A dog. A rabbit. Ice cream. These clouds usually show up during nice, sunny weather. Cumulus clouds are made of a mixture of water and ice droplets. If this cloud grows to be tall enough, it forms the cumulonimbus cloud.
Cumulonimbus clouds are the tallest of all the clouds.
This cloud is bigger at the top than the bottom, like an animal.
When you see a cumulonimbus cloud, that means bad weather.
Lightning, thunder, heavy rain, tornado. What type of clouds do you see today?
Can you find shapes in the clouds?
So you can see that's a super cute video there. And so another thing that I should mention about the Everyday Learning collection is that after, in all the videos, there are always questions. And down here, there are also some things that I would like to point out. So here you can see that there's just a little about section. So exactly what this resource is about and how you might use it. You can see here that there is the option to download some of these resources. So if you're in an area that maybe doesn't have the best Wi-Fi connection, I know we had somebody in Floyd County who actually downloaded a lot of these resources, put them on flash drives, and then brought those flash drives to families who didn't have internet connection. Another thing here is that there are support materials. So for, I believe every resource, I'm not positive on that, but I have not encountered a resource in PBS Learning Media that doesn't have these, but support materials. So there's always going to be a background reading. So that's a really good thing for you as the educator to look into, just to make sure that you can, you know exactly what this resource is. It's being appropriately used and implemented in your classroom. And it just gives you a little bit more information on the subject. Here, there is an activity. So if you want to extend the learning, you can do that very easily here. It gives you some great ideas. And then also with some of them, there are discussion questions. So here you can see that those were embedded right into the video. But a lot of videos and resources here will have discussion questions. Now I'm going to come back out of PBS Learning Media, and I'm going to show you another feature of this website. So when you go up to the search bar and you type in something, it can be any subject at all. Today we'll stick with weather. You'll see that just like Google, you get a bunch of search results. Well, that is no good because you don't have all day to be sorting through 879 search results. So what you can do is you can filter. So here you can see you can filter by grade. So if I know that I'm in a pre-K classroom, I might click on pre-K. Now I would also recommend you can do one grade level above or one grade level below. Today we'll just stick with pre-K. You'll see right there that brought it down to 40 search results. Now, if you know that there's a specific subject, maybe you pick something that isn't so obviously science, you can come down here and click on the subject. And then the resource type. So this is really, this is a really great part of PBS Learning Media, is there are multiple different kinds of resources. So we have collections. You saw back with the Everyday Learning and the Ready to Learn, that was one big collection. So if you wanted, a Daniel Tiger collection, a Molly of Denali collection, you could come right here and find those. There's also videos, there's interactive lessons. So these are great, especially on smart boards specifically. There's interactives, which you can do right there on your computer. So this is a great thing, if you're doing virtual learning right now, it's a little bit more fun than just your average, video sit and get type thing. There's some lesson plans. So if you, have a specific content area that you'd like a lesson plan or some ideas, you can click right there. There's a media gallery, there's audio, there's images, there's documents, web pages, and then there's some teacher-built resources as well. Down here, you'll see language. There are options. A lot of these resources are available in Spanish. And then accessibility. So if you need captions or transcripts, there's the option to filter down to those as well. And then additional features, if you know that you are looking for only downloadable resources, you can click right here. Or if you know that you need support materials along with your resource, you can click right there. So now I'm going to come up here. So I'm going to click on my name. And then what you'll see here is the dashboard that's going to bring you back favorites and folders. So today I'm really going to focus on these favorites and the folders. So earlier I said that if you click on the heart on a resource, it's going to favorite it for you. Well, when it favorites it, it brings it here. So these are all of the different resources that I at some point have favorited. And then you can, this one, let me just click on this next one. Okay, so here you can see that I've also added them to a folder. So right here, this folder just kind of indicates that it's been placed in the Early Childhood Educators Collection folder. Now, if you had, one that was specific about weather, you could add that there. Let me come up here and show you where these folders are. So here are the folders. So you can click down here, find some more information, click view folder, and you're going to find all of those favorited resources that are specific for whatever this folder is. It could be weather, it could be science, it could be, whatever you want to make it. One video I did just see that I completely forgot to show you all that is very relevant for right now is the Everyday Learning Let's Vote video. So I'm going to play this for you all. So this is out of the Everyday Learning collection. This is a KET produced resource.
Hi, my name is Scarlett, and this is my dad. He's walking me to school. This is my classroom and my teacher, Mrs. Rebecca. She's super nice. We've been learning about the fall season. Did you know that fall is a great time to pick and eat apples? I'm drawing apples with Miss Rebecca. My friend Julie likes drawing apples too. Today we get to try 3 kinds of apples and then vote for our favorite. We're going to try yellow, green, and red apple. It's time to taste. Everyone gets a cup with a slice of each apple. Yum, I love apples. I wonder which apple my friends will like the best. Miss Rebecca made a chart with the 3 apple colors at the top. To vote for our favorite, we put our name tag under the apple we like the best. I get to go first. All the apples tasted great, but my favorite was the red apple. It was super.
All right, my internet kicked out there. We are going to exit out of PBS Learning Media. Does anybody have any questions, though, before we move on?
There aren't any in the chat at the moment.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so another resource that I'd like to talk about is pbskids.org. So this is a great website if you are, especially with those young kiddos looking for something specific. So just in a moment here, we'll give you a little cheat sheet of all the PBS Kids properties because there are quite a few. But right here on this wheel, you're going to see all of the different PBS Kids properties. When you hover over it, it's going to tell you the name down on the bottom there. So this is going to be a great place for you to come if you are looking for videos and games specifically. So, if I wanted to choose, let me choose one of my favorites, Daniel Tiger. So if I click on Daniel Tiger, you'll see here that it's going to bring you to the Daniel Tiger, part of this website. So here you'll see the option that there are games, stories, videos, arts, and songs. And these are some pretty fun games in here. I've come in here and enjoyed them. And then you'll also see that there are different apps listed. So we'll go into detail about that just a little bit more. But if you are ever just, specifically if you have a child and they absolutely love Daniel Tiger, this is going to be a great place to come and find out where you can get some more Daniel Tiger. Now, when I come out of here, you'll see down here, there are always going to be new games highlighted. So these, look kind of fall related, which are always fun. There's constantly new games coming out of here. You'll see some of the popular games. So these are ones that are specifically loved. And then you'll see some hard games if you need some challenge. When you come up here, a few things to highlight. There is a parent parent website here. So this brings you to the For Grown-Ups page. Where you can get multiple resources specifically for parents. Now, I know that this is part of coming up here, but just really quick, I do want to mention for parents, this is the PBS Parents website, which is a great resource even if you are an educator and you, maybe don't have an 8-year-old anymore or 2 to 8-year-old, but there are always, I come to this website constantly just to read some of the different resources. So there are always different, blog type posts. There's different resources specific to, social emotional learning, social skills, character literacy, math, science, arts. But then down here, you can also get into some more specific stuff. So down here, you can see what is race, having a conversation with young children. But then there's also things like fun Halloween activities to do at home. So there are a bunch of different resources in here. So again, you're going to come up here and click on shows. And, again, if you have a child that loves Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, you can click right there and find all of the resources on this website that involve Daniel Tiger, or you can explore some of the other ones. So if you want to play, you can see the activities by type. So if you're looking for coloring pages, crafts, games, and apps, some birthday party activities, or some recipes, you can click on any of these and then sort down. And then, so Thrive, if you hover over that, those are going to be some articles. So those are going to be the latest articles that we had discussed earlier. And then again, Learn and Grow. So these are going to be different milestones by topic. So you can click on whichever one is going to be relevant. And then another great thing too is if you have a 4-year-old, you can click on this and you're going to get all of those resources that are specific for 4-year-olds. And then another thing to highlight really quick down on the bottom, I believe, is that they have a newsletter that's really good to sign up for. So they're constantly emailing just a few. It's not an overwhelming email at all. It's usually about 3 or 4 resources in their emails. Usually they highlight some, there's some new ones. So this is definitely a great page to check out whether you are a parent or not. Okay, so the PBS Kids learning goals. So I mentioned earlier that there was going to be a little bit of a cheat sheet for you. So this is exactly what that is. So this PBS Kids learning goal sheet is going to be a cheat sheet of all of the different PBS Kids properties. So on the left here, you're going to see the title of the property, and they're also divided by content area. So you'll see social emotional learning, literacy, social studies, and STEM. And then there's also some digital only. You'll see that there. In the middle here, you're going to see the grade level that it's appropriate for. So you're making sure that you are implementing something that is going to be age appropriate and again, backed by research. And then over on the right here, you can see the content area that it's specific for. So if you are, in your classroom and you know that you are really focusing on science or math, you might come over to Odd Squad and pick one of their resources for that math subject. Another thing here too that we're going to talk about in just a moment are the PBS Kids apps. So this is a learning goal sheet for the app. So over here on the left, you're going to see the name and the title of the app listed. In the middle, you're going to see the age range that it's appropriate for. And then over here again, it's going to be the content area. So these 2 apps I'd like to highlight here. So the PBS Kids Games app has multiple games. So it's just a really kind of a one-stop shop. If you aren't familiar with any of these apps, I would definitely recommend this as a place to start, just to kind of get your, dip your toes in the water a little bit there. And then the PBS Kids video app where you can watch any of the videos from any of the PBS Kids properties. One thing to mention too, that's a really, great thing about these apps, that with the exception of this video app, once you download them, you no longer need Wi-Fi. So you might periodically need to update them for, there's updates that come through in the system like they do. But for the most part, you don't need Wi-Fi or data to use them. And down here, you'll see some of these paid apps as well. Again, this is just kind of highlighting some of the apps. So you have Cat in the Hat here. You have Daniel Tiger. Again, the PBS Kids Games app, the Play and Learn Science. So there's multiple different apps that can be really tailored to whatever the content area or your children's interest. So now we're going to pause. So we're going to kind of just do some reflecting about what you all have learned today. So we're going to do an exercise called triangle, circle, and square. So triangle. So either in the chat or feel free to unmute yourselves. What are 3 important points you're going to take away from today's discussion? What what are you going to be able to use in your classroom? What's something that really just, was interesting to you that you didn't know maybe beforehand?